Hey guys, welcome back to Anthony's Tennis Hub. My name's Anthony Hirsch, and today I want to talk about the Mutua Madrid Masters. I want to break down the ATP draw. I'm going to go through all four quarters of the draw, giving the seeds, giving my story of the quarter, basically the biggest storyline going on in every single one of the four quarters in the draw. Matches of the quarter, the best matches, not just the early rounds, but potential fourth round quarterfinal matches we could get, the dark horses, and finally, my quarterfinal prediction as well. Then I will go over semifinals and finals, giving my winner and in how many sets I predict that they will win those matches. Giving my overall, in-depth, hopefully, preview and predictions for the draw. Like always, please don't forget to subscribe if you are new for more tennis content like this, and there's a lot of really, I think, interesting and fun kind of tennis content coming onto this channel. So please don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and please don't forget to ring that notification bell for more as well. Okay, so going through this draw, really interesting point, I think, in the tennis season with ruud and Tsitsipas kicking things off. It's not a Sinner, it's not an Alcaraz, it's not a Djokovic, it's not a Medvedev. And as good as that is for tennis and those four guys ruling, this is good. This is good to, get a little bit of spice involved, something new, something unpredictable. And it makes it really interesting coming into Madrid. Djokovic is not playing Madrid. He's withdrawn. I'll give you the other withdrawals as well. Berrettini has withdrawn. Arthur Cazaux has withdrawn due to an injury, a recent event. Hopefully that he comes back healthy soon. Cilic, Jera, Evans, McDonald, and Murray as well are the other withdrawals. So those guys are not playing in this tournament, but we still have a lot of really, really great players. Alcaraz is playing, even with an arm injury. He's been saying the last couple of days. Today he gave an interview that he is feeling better, that the arm is holding up better. This is a very successful event for him. Double defending champion. So we'll see if he is able to defend. And also, obviously, Sinner and, yes, ruud and Tsitsipas. So many great players in here, so we'll see what all kind of goes down. But going into the first quarter of the tournament, so the seeds in this quarter are Sinner, Tsitsipas, Jarry, Khachanov, Dimitrov, Mannarino, Norrie, and Casper Ruud. My story of the quarter is it's a test of how good ruud is at the moment, and with Sinner standing in his quarter, is he going to be able to stand up to Jannik Sinner? So it's honestly going to be really interesting. Ruud, in the final against Tsitsipas in Barcelona, I thought was playing some of his best tennis. He was playing a very smart match, and not just a smart match of building out points, but even if he's not fully comfortable, he was still just going for the attack. If he saw an open space in the court, he was just going there. Often when he would play a guy like Tsitsipas, he would be very strategic and always go to the backhand and really do that and kind of slice and dice and build out the points. Against Tsitsipas, he decided just be far more aggressive, which he's capable of doing, especially with that forehand. And he was really finding good ways to dictate. He was standing in closer on the return. And the backhand was holding up way better. Some of the backhand cross-court angles he was finding were some of the more important in the match. Also, going with the backhand down the line, going with the backhand slice down the line, which was to the forehand of Tsitsipas. These were a few things he was doing that he just didn't do in the past. And it'll be interesting against Jannik. Jannik hasn't performed that well in Madrid in the past. He didn't play last year after reaching the Indian Wells, Miami, and Monte Carlo semifinals all consecutively, which he did again this year. Sinner is the only guy to ever do that even once outside of the Big Four. And now he's done it 2 years in a row. So just throw that stat out there. But after he did that last year, reaching Indian Wells, Miami, and Monte Carlo semis, he then withdrew from Madrid. And that could be with the lack of success he's had here in the past. It is a bit more kind of high altitude, high bounce. That isn't always great for Jannik. And it's also, clay, which he's still finding his absolute top game on. So that's why I think he's kind of had that lack of success a little bit in the past. But, it'll be interesting to see how he can kind of improve, if he can improve. And, ruud with the forehand is blasting forehands, ruud. So it could be really interesting. And he was serving well. I think that could be an interesting match if we do get it. But yeah, we'll see how Sinner shows up. We'll see how Ruud shows up. But Ruud is definitely flowing with confidence after his first ATP 500. Best matches of the quarter, Dimitrov versus Ruud is a round 4. Then also Ruud versus Sinner quarterfinal. These are potential matchups, but these are the matchups that I've got. Dimitrov at this Madrid tournament, like I mentioned before the Miami tournament, he's trying to get semifinals at every single Masters tournament. If he can get to the semifinals here, then he would have gone to the semifinals of every single Masters. That is very rare. Even Medvedev hasn't done it. Even Zverev has not done it. This is very rare. This is a very rare thing. So that would be quite a big achievement. And if he is able to do it, it would end up so that Roland Garros and Olympics are the only big events where he hasn't made a semifinal appearance. So that's just something to look out for. But yeah, those are some matches that I want to mention. I also want to mention Mensik is going to be playing his first tour level clay event. Fonseca is also in here, although Fonseca's been struggling and losing to players you just wouldn't really expect him losing to, well outside the 150 in the world. So, but anyway, those couple of young guys coming up are in here, and Mensik has Hoffman, who did quite well here last year actually, but if he wins that, he could go up against Dimitrov. That could be good. Also, Jari versus Khachanov could be good as well. But the main ones I want to shout out are Dimitrov versus Ruud and Ruud versus Sinner quarterfinal. Dark horse, I've got Karen Khachanov. Khachanov did quite well here last year. He beat Montero. He beat Batista Gu. He beat Rublev as well, which is a big win. After Rublev had gone to the Monte Carlo, after he'd gotten the Monte Carlo title, and Rublev's done well here in the past too, but Khachanov beat him, and then a close one versus Alcaraz, the first time he made the quarterfinals here, Khachanov, last year, and a close one versus Alcaraz, where he led 5-2 in the second set. It was 6-4 for Alcaraz first set, 5-2. Khachanov was leading in the second set before Alcaraz won the next 5 consecutive games and won 7-5. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out Khachanov as a dark horse, because when he's playing well, I think he can do well on all of the surfaces, so want to shout him out. He had a great Roland Garros run last year where he also got to the quarters and he pushed Novak in that match. So wanted to shout him out. Quarterfinal prediction here. I've got a big one. I did a big call here. I said Casper Ruud defeats Jannik Sinner in 3 sets. I did mention that Jannik Sinner, he has struggled here in the past in 2022 and 2021. Even more so than a Monte Carlo, maybe even more so than a Rome as well, definitely more than a Roland Garros. Sinner has struggled here. So it's actually Roland Garros, which is placed a little bit slower. He's had more success than Madrid, but we'll see. I can see him improving here, but the results do speak for themselves. And Casper is just playing with such great confidence. It is 3 weeks in a row. So we'll see how he kind of is able to handle that Casper. But he's a fit guy. He's done that before. He's won 3 clay tournaments in a row before. Although those were 250s, which is different. But I do think that Ruud can hold a candle to Sinner. All of the things I mentioned earlier. I think he can survive off the backhand to backhand. He's playing much more aggressive. And I think with the variety that he has as well, I think he can test out Sinner, who Ruud might be more comfortable on the clay, and he's coming with confidence, having beaten Djokovic, having beaten Tsitsipas in the last couple of events. Sinner would be a huge another step up, although Djokovic was quite good in Monte Carlo, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see what kind of happens. I think Ruud can struggle against the Sinner game, against a big hitter like Jannik, so it could be tough. But we'll see how Jannik shows up with his best game. It could still be tough mentally to kind of move forward after Monte Carlo, but I'm assuming Jannik will be okay with that after what happened in the semifinals against Steph and when he started cramping and the line call, all of that. But I think Sinner will move on. But I just think that Ruud at the moment is going to be playing with confidence, and I don't know. I kind of see a breakthrough here for Casper. So I'm gonna take Ruud in 3 sets. That's my big kind of call there. So yeah, I'll go with that. Sinner Ruud, by the way, would play for the first time since 2021 when they played 2 years in a row in Vienna, 2020 and 2021. There it's a big advantage for Sinner when they played. They haven't played on the clay court, so we'll see what happens. But I do like the conditions more for Casper, who has reached semifinal here. Another last thing I want to mention with Section 1 as well is that the qualifiers in here, Bautista Agut and Ramos Vinolas also qualified in. He was the 16th seed in qualifying. One of the better clay court specialists of the last, 10, 15 years, 36 years of age. Who knows how many more Masters he's going to play, but I just want to shout him out. And also RBA getting into the qualifying in this section as well. I thought it was somewhat interesting. Bautista Agut will play Galan, so he's got a decent chance there. Then he would play Khachanov, and Ramos Vinolas got Kotov. Then he can play Jordan Thompson, so you never know. Might be more comfortable on clay than those guys, so we'll see what happens with that. Quarter 2, the C's are Medvedev, Korda, Bublik, Shelton, de Minaur, Tiafoe, Lehecka, and Tsitsipas. Story of the quarter, a bunch of interesting names, open and mostly unpredictable. This is a very open section. This quarter is very, very interesting. But Tsitsipas is the big name to me that kind of stands out. There's no doubt about it. Tsitsipas will want to feel like he should be able to get through this section. Might be a little bit tired after the run in Monte Carlo, winning that, and then some long matches in Barcelona and getting to the final there. Playing a tough one against Ruud, so we'll see if he can do three weeks in a row. It wouldn't be completely brand new. In 2022, we did something slightly similar, had a good run in Madrid, so we'll see if he can do it. But he will like his quarter. Tsitsipas will like his quarter. I mean, in here, there's a lot of interesting names. Medvedev, Arnaldi is in here, Korda is in here, Kopfer, Carballés Baena, Mahac, Ruusuvuori, Shelton, Nadal, de Minaur, Tiafoe's in here, Lajovic, Montero's a qualifier, Medvedev, the young Serbian who won the next gen finals, and then Tsitsipas. I mean, this is Bublik. This is a very interesting quarter with a lot of interesting names. So we'll see if anybody can get through and really test Tsitsipas, but this is very open. A lot of opportunity, at least for a quarterfinal spot and some fourth round spots. No doubt about it. So we'll see what kind of happens. My matches of the quarter are Medvedev versus Arnaldi. I've got quite a few in this one. Medvedev Arnaldi and Medvedev Korda, potential round 2 and round 3. Both of those are very interesting. Medvedev isn't at his top shape on a clay court, generally, although he was playing better last year. I mean, to win Rome. Moving exceptionally well, and it seemed like the movement really unlocked something where he was suddenly getting more kind of pace of shot and consistent depth and kind of hurting people more when he was defending on clay. That can kind of, that on an indoor, on a fast indoor court, that can, that part of his game, the hole in that part of his game can be kind of filled in due to the pace of an indoor court. But on a clay court, his shots might not be as penetrative. So I want to shout out these two because Korda and Arnaldi are very tough. Arnaldi in particular is very, very tough. Then I've got also Nadal's couple first 2 rounds. Nadal versus Blanche, round 1. And Nadal is probably gonna win. I mean, Nadal is playing a decently high level against de Minaur in Barcelona, and Blanche is just turned 16. I've known about Blanche for a little bit, not that long. It would be almost impossible for it to be that long. As a guy who just turned 16, outside the top 1,000 of the world. He's got a few brothers who are professionals. Second youngest player ever to get an ATP point. He's got a lot of skills. Very kind of tall guy. Hitting partner to Alcaraz. And yeah, it's going to be a round 1, and who knows, Blanche might be the next big thing up. You never know, the next guy up. So we'll see. It's always fun to get a matchup. We'll see how he can do. It's fun to get a kind of all-timer versus youngster kind of matchup. And, it's not necessarily an Alcaraz versus Djokovic kind of match, but who knows? Who knows what it is? So I just want to shout that one out. Nadal versus de Minaur rematch. It's going to be another tough one for Rafa, but we'll see. We'll see if there can be a Tsitsipas Ruud situation where Nadal realizes what he needs to do more, and we'll see how Rafa can do. And I think that I think that it would be difficult for de Minaur to hit the drop shot like he was in the first match, partly because the way the courts are and how faster they are and how they play. But also, he's already used it. So Rafa will have a few things. There probably won't be as many long rallies. We'll see if Nadal kind of plays maybe more aggressive than he did in the other one, and there aren't as many long rallies because he saw that De Minaur can really stand up in those rallies, especially on the back end wing. So we'll see what Nadal does, but I'll be interested. I'll be interested. Then I also want to mention Lajovic versus Tsitsipas round 2 is a very good match. I do expect Steph to win, like he did in Barcy, but Lajovic is really tough at his best. So dark horses, Nadal, Arnaldi, and Lajovic. I already talked a little bit about all of them. Quarterfinal prediction. I've got Tsitsipas defeating Medvedev in 2 sets. A revenge from Rome last year. I think Tsitsipas and Medvedev is one of the best rivalries on the tour. I think it's one of the best rivalries on the tour. You kind of were missing the competitive aspect of it up until, say, 2022. I don't think we've seen the peak of this rivalry yet, which is what genuinely fills me with a lot of excitement. I don't think we've seen the top of this yet. I don't think we have. It got interesting. Cincinnati in 2022. One of the first kind of steps in which it got interesting. Tsitsipas was using a lot of serve and volley. Pretty much played a near perfect match. Medvedev was a little bit off his form in 2022, although he was playing pretty well in Cincinnati, to be honest, up until that point. It looked like he was keen to reach the final there when he was lacking results like that, but Tsitsipas played a nearly perfect match. And then they played one of my favorite matches of the whole season, and there were so many great matches that season at the ATP Finals, where they played a couple incredible tiebreakers, and it was just topsy-turvy. Same things from Tsitsipas, and Tsitsipas mentally solid and got through it in the 3rd set tiebreaker, and that was really phenomenal. And also, I love the way their kind of games match up against each other. It makes for really, really interesting just viewing in every way. And also the drama aspect of it, because those two guys haven't always gotten along, adds another element to it, for better or worse. And it's one of the more interesting matchups. On a clay court, though, and at the moment, on a clay court, you have to favor Stefanos Tsitsipas. So I've got Tsitsipas being Medvedev in 2 sets. It's also Steph's second highest win rate at a Masters behind Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo is at 87%, but this one is at 69% win rate. He made the semifinal in 2022 and the final in 2019 as well. We could also get Medvedev Shelton in the section as well, by the way, and they have never played before, so I just want to mention that as well. But yeah, a few things going on this quarter that I think are interesting, and I've got Tsitsipas coming through it, but there's a bunch of interesting names. We'll see if it is Medvedev getting through. I do think that Medvedev played decently here last year. I felt like this was the place where Medvedev really started feeling out his game on the clay. And I don't see, I think he should like these courts. They do play a little bit quicker. I'm not as confident that the high bounce is going to play that much into his hands, but we'll see what happens. He played decently, lost to Karatsev last year, who was very close to making the final. Karatsev got a little bit injured and was basically playing on one leg. His movement was hampered against Struff, although Struff played incredible, deserved the final too. But Karatsev had an incredible showing here last year, and that was not a bad loss for Medvedev. Medvedev played really well, so I would just watch out for Medvedev, because Medvedev is at such a top tier, and what I said, the improvements on clay, I think that will hold up. Quarter 3, the seeds are Hurkacz, Artur Fils, Baez, Fritz, Paul, Cerundolo, Echeverry, and Zverev. This is the most wide open section. There's an opportunity for a deep run. That's my story of the quarter, biggest storyline. Wide open section. There genuinely is so much opportunity for a deep run here. Let me go through the players here. You've got, I mentioned the seeds. And then you've got Shapovalov, you've got Diaz Acosta, you've got Karatsev, you've got Marajan, you've got Monfils in here, you've got Darderi, you've got Luka von Osch, you got Draper, got Kokkinakis, and then you got the seeds I mentioned, Echeverry. And, Zverev is tough. And he's performed well here in the past. 2 years ago, made the final here, lost to Alcaraz pretty badly, but made the final. We'll see. I just don't think Zverev is a sure thing to get through this. He lost pretty badly in the Bavarian International that just happened. He lost to Christian Garin. So I think that Zverev is not a sure thing to get through this get through this section. Fritz, I'm not as confident on clay courts. Hurkacz, also not as confident on clay. But there's some dangerous guys. It's just wide open. It's just wide open. I could see somebody else getting through this. So that's what I would say. Matches of the quarters, Zverev versus Echeverry. Round 3, that could be really good. It was an incredible match on Roland Garros last year. Really, really good stuff. Zverev coming to net a lot, actually, in that match. And Echeverry played phenomenal, but Zverev was playing his best tennis, I thought, since his comeback at that time. Zverev versus Hurkacz quarterfinal, potentially, as well. Or Zverev versus Fritz quarterfinal. And I did put Hurkacz in parentheses because Hurkacz is the seed that's favorited to get to that position. But if we do get Zverev Fritz, that could be a great match as well. Like I said, I'm not fully confident in Zverev getting through, and Fritz and Hurkacz are tough players, but I'm also not super confident in them getting through. I think this is wide open. Dark horses, Echeverry, Fils, and Marajan. And my quarterfinal prediction, I'm also going to say another prediction as well, by the way, and that one is a pretty big prediction. But quarterfinal prediction, I'm going to go Fritz defeats Zverev in 3 sets. Fritz coming off a final. Fritz just coming off a final is a big result for him. I believe a final in, was it Munich? Fritz in Munich in the final. Beat Christian Garin, who beat Zverev, also beat Draper, just lost to Struff, but he was playing well there. That's a good run from Fritz. Now is a final on every single surface. And I liked more what I saw from Fritz last year on the clay, got to the semis of Monte Carlo, lost in 3 sets to Rublev, and I liked the confidence that he was showing that, hey, I can play on clay. And I like it. And I felt like he was defending as well as I've seen him at the start of the year at the Australian Open in Delray Beach. And there are these different things that I like from him. You know, implementing a little bit more variety into his game. Some drop shots. I saw that in Australia. Some slices and drop shots. So I think that those are some things that can help him out. And like I said, I'm just not that confident in Zverev at the moment. So I'm going to go Fritz over Zverev in 3 sets. But just to see, because I don't think... Or I guess I did look it up, but I'm not recalling what the head-to-head is between Fritz and Zverev. 4-3 for Zverev. 4-3 for Zverev, but Fritz has won 2 of their last 3 meetings, including in 2021 when Fritz beat Zverev at Indian Wells. Fritz also beat Zverev in 2019 in Basel when Zverev would have been a big favorite. And yeah, I don't know. There are a few times that they played at Wimbledon early on, but Fritz wasn't as good on grass at the time, although he was decent. But Fritz has won the last meeting that they had. I'm gonna go with Fritz. I don't think that head says a whole lot, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Fritz over Zverev. And I also want to mention Karatsev is in this quarter as well. Karatsev back in business, first time since Brisbane. He hasn't won a match since he got to the final of Tokyo last year. Lost to Ben Shelton straight sets there in the final, but he did amazing here last year. Like I said, everything that I said, semifinal versus Struff, just his physical health was hampered. But and my other big prediction that I want to mention. Oh, I forgot to mention as well. Another reason I was saying I kind of think Fritz might beat Zverev. Zverev against Christian Garin last week won just 7 of 29 second serve return points. 7 of 29. That's over 70% win rate for Garin. That's not going to be good enough, especially when he comes up against a Fritz or anything like that. So we'll see how he can improve on the return of serve, but that's another thing that kind of informed my prediction of Fritz over Zverev and Fritz reaching the semifinals. And Fritz getting back into the confident form that he was in to start the year. And I guess he already is with the final last week in Munich. My other prediction in this section that I kind of just wanted to mention, I think Fils is going to make the 4th round. I think Arthur Fils makes the 4th round. I have a good feeling about Fils. Beat De Minaur last week after De Minaur beat Rafa. I feel like Fils, even in his loss to Lajovic was playing really well. I felt like he was showing good signs. I feel like Fils is on the precipice of a good run and on clay. So I just want to mention that. Hurkacz is playing great, but I have a feeling about Fils over Hurkacz, and I just wanted to put that one out there. And I have a feeling Fils at least gets to the 4th round. I kind of am wondering if maybe he could even go further and make a quarterfinal or something, but I just wanted to point that one out there as well. If we're doing predictions, I'm going to go all in with predictions. Why not? That's another big prediction I got. Quarter 4, Rublev, Davidovich, Fokina, Greek Spore, Rune, Humbert, Struff, Musetti, and Hurkacz. Story of the quarter is how can guys like Rublev and Rune show up to stop Alcaraz. Alcaraz, like I said, has said that his arm is in better condition, in better health, and we'll see what those kind of guys can do to stop him. Rublev's in a tough position though. Also, Rublev could have qualifier Nakashima in his first match back, and Nakashima just beat him like a couple weeks ago. Rublev's been struggling, and he's on a 4-match losing streak. I don't think Rublev's going to be the guy. Rune could be interesting. Rune could still be interesting. He has a winning head-to-head against Alcaraz, actually. I believe that's still true. It actually could be tied, now that I think about it. Alcaraz may have tied it up. Okay, no, he's actually leading. Okay, he's actually leading 2-1. For some reason, I thought Rune had won twice, but maybe I was mixing up with Sinner versus Rune. But it is 2-1 for Alcaraz after their Wimbledon showing. No, actually, okay, wait, hold up. So it's actually 1-1. ATP website includes the next gen as well, but the head-to-head is 1-1 now. So they haven't played on clay. They played on indoor hard and grass. They have not played on clay yet, so that could be interesting. Despite Rune having some weird losses like to Struff last week where he was playing pretty poorly, although Struff played really, really well. And I felt like that was the more notable thing, that Struff played incredibly well, which he would have had to have that scoreline win in 44 minutes. But that being said, I like Rune on clay. I think he'll show up fine. So far in his career, this is his worst clay masters or worst big clay event, but I still think he can do well. He won a really close, good match against Bublik in the 3rd-set breaker last year, and then he fought well again against Davidovich Fokina. Barely lost that one, although Fokina was, it was like the tennis gods saying, okay, Davidovich Fokina, you can have this one. After Fokina blew 5 consecutive match points against Rublev in Dubai and was blowing lots of chances. So it was like, ADF, you can have this one. We'll see how Rune kind of shows up here, though. So with that showing last year, I don't think it was that poor. I think he's still somebody to reckon with in Madrid. Also, he had just won in Munich and got to the final of Monte Carlo as well. So maybe was more tired coming into Madrid as well. That's maybe worth it to point out too. So he could still be a problem here. Matches of the quarter, I've got Musetti versus Alcaraz round 3. Really good shot-making contest. Musetti is an even bigger problem on clay than he is on hard course, and it was a pretty entertaining match in Miami, despite the very one-sided scoreline. We could get some great shots. Struff versus Humbert, round 3. I've got that one as well. I just have a good feeling about it. Struff got to the final here last year. It will be his first big seed that he's going to come up against. Humbert, I think, is less confident on clay than he is on the other surfaces, in my personal opinion, with his kind of big game, but we'll see. I mean, Struff's got a big game too. He makes it work, and that could be a really, really interesting round 3. Struff is just so utterly aggressive that it'll be interesting to see if Humbert can kind of break through those walls. He'll need to hit a lot of great passing shots, and I think Humbert has improved on his kind of shot tolerance and not missing early balls, but I think that with Struff, I mean, all the improvements that he's made to make his game work better on clay, it's not going to be that important. It's a little bit in Struff's hands, and we'll see if Humbert can kind of make it so that push Struff back a little bit, and if he can dictate, it'll be interesting. Rune versus Alcaraz quarterfinal, potentially. I've got Rublev in parentheses because Rublev is not in form. I didn't even include Rublev versus Alcaraz because I just feel like that's not going to be that good. Rune Alcaraz quarterfinal could be really interesting with how good Rune is playing on clay courts at the moment. At least his run in Monte Carlo is pretty impressive. Dark horses, I've got Struff, obvious. Just picked up his first title. He's going to be turning 34 this week, but he's playing incredible tennis. I mentioned the age, not to say anything against how he's playing. I mean, Djokovic is, almost 37. He's world number 1. So Struff is playing incredibly well, and he got to the final here last year. Like I said, he's an obvious dark horse. In this section, I'll go to who he's playing. He's got Munar or Borges in the second round. They could have Humbert in the third round. Also, Botic is in there. Also, Christopher Eubanks, but likely it's going to be Humbert. And then Musetti or Alcaraz, likely Alcaraz waiting on the other side as well. Also, Safiulin, Shevchenko, say both Wielch. Those are a few other guys that are interesting. Seyboth Wielsch is very talented, great athlete. Safulin is interesting, although I don't know if he's going to be as big of an issue on clay. I don't think so, honestly. But anyway, those are some interesting names in there, and that's his draw. Kind of Humbert and then probably Alcaraz. Quarterfinal, though, I've got Alcaraz defeats Rune in 2 sets. I think it's going to be a 2-set match. I think that Alcaraz is going to show everybody why Madrid is just so it's so tough to play him in Madrid. He's got that extra pace of shot in Madrid. He moves so well in Madrid. He loves the clay, loves sliding on the clay and moving on the clay. So swift on his feet. It's just on a clay court, he's got the extra time to build out the points, but also with Madrid, he's got the extra kind of pace of shot, and he's got the kind of kick serve sometimes that can be really helped out by kind of the high altitude courts in Madrid. There's so many things that are so helped out to Alcaraz by these courts, and I just think he absolutely loves it. And on clay, I mean, it's like 85% win rate. He's from Spain. He practices on clay. This is his home crowd. He's going for 3 in a row. I don't think that's ever been done, actually, to win Madrid 3 times in a row. Rafa's only won it 4 times, period. So it'll be interesting to see how Alcaraz can do. But yeah, I've got Alcaraz defeating Rune in 2 sets. It could be a great match, though. And Alcaraz would go ahead in front of Rune, less neutral head-to-heads and less kind of losing head-to-heads as well for Carlos. I love the young guy matchups. We're going to see Alcaraz versus Rune a whole lot. First time on clay. I think that people underrate the first time that 2 guys meet on a certain surface. Everything is kind of becoming the same now, which I don't like. Everything's becoming super slow and the same, but anyway, even now, it's a different thing when you play on a clay court to a hard court. And the first time that Rune and Alcaraz play on clay, that's exciting. So, super into it. And I think that, whether it's Sinner versus Alcaraz, Sinner versus Rune, Sinner, Alcaraz versus Sinner, or, even Artur Fils or Korda or Draper, whoever these guys, we're going to see these matchups a lot more. And we should kind of savor them when we get them. And now for my semifinal predictions in 3, 2, 1. I've got Ruud defeating Tsitsipas in 3 sets. Right where he left off in Barcelona, I think Ruud shows that he's a guy to beat on clay. I think he shows that he's a guy to beat on clay. I mean, look at how well he was playing in the Barcelona final. He's a fit guy. It might be tough to do 3 weeks in a row, but Tsitsipas also. I mean, he's got Tsitsipas, who's also, it might be even more tired than Ruud. With the tough, tight matches he was playing in Monte Carlo against Jannik, for example, and also winning that tournament, the emotional kind of mental part of that, and to keep it going week after week. He was playing some really tight matches in Barcelona, got to the final there, and then, he might be even more tired with the tight matches he was playing in Barcelona. So I've got Ruud beating Tsitsipas in 3 sets. Going off where he left off, it would be 2-1. It would be 3 weeks in a row, which is really unique. Actually kind of three times in 4 weeks because this is a 2-week event. But yeah, so that, I would love it. I would love it if we see another Ruud versus Tsitsipas. I think that these 2 guys are pretty similar in the way that they kind of do the kind of way that they work out the points, kind of cat and mouse. They both like to kind of like to lean to their left and hit the forehands off from the ad side a little bit and kind of run around the backhands, which they're both so good at doing. It's become a really interesting matchup. They would play tied up 1-1. I was going a little bit back and forth, especially with the final that Tsitsipas has reached here, but I'm going with Casper to another final, and momentum is a real thing, and I've got Casper getting through it. Then I've got Alcaraz beats Fritz in 2 sets. I don't think I have to talk a whole lot about this. I don't know if Fritz has enough that can hurt Alcaraz, especially on these courts when he's playing his best. This might be a little bit of a blowout. Alcaraz has shown everybody kind of who's boss in Madrid. I am doing this with the assumption that Alcaraz will find good health as this tournament kind of progresses and even at the start of the tournament. But I've got Alcaraz beating Fritz in 2 sets. If Fritz does get to this point, which a lot of these predictions probably won't come to fruition, but if that does happen, this would be a good run for Taylor. All right, and now to get to the final. 3, 2, 1. I've got Alcaraz defeats Ruud in straight sets. I've got Alcaraz winning Madrid for the 3rd year in a row in 2 sets. Ruud with another great run. I think he'd be happy, or he should be happy with 2 Clay Masters, his first ATP 500. It would still be a great showing. I think Alcaraz is a guy who he struggles against. And I think that a lot of the things that can help out Ruud from these courts, Alcaraz can also be helped by these courts. And I just think that Alcaraz, when he's playing smart, high IQ ball like he was doing in Indian Wells, even coming up against a guy who plays smart like Ruud and can build out the points quite smartly, I think that Alcaraz is going to be one step ahead. And he's just so talented. His serve was looking better in Indian Wells. I mean, Miami lost to Dimitrov, which is, it's not a great loss, but also Dimitrov's playing out of his head. I think Alcaraz is still going to feel confident. He's going to feel confident here where he's already played the final the last 2 years. Ruud would be in his first final. Like I said, Ruud might be a little bit tired. Could be close. One of these sets could be close if we do get it, but I've got Alcaraz beating Ruud in 2 sets. All right. I appreciate everybody joining in. Please, stick around on this channel for more Madrid content. There's going to be a lot more different stuff coming. I'm very excited. So please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that notification bell. Please don't forget to like for more predictions, breakdowns, all of that kind of stuff. And appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys at the next one for more stuff Madrid. I'd like to shout out the Tennis Pal Chronicles podcast, a podcast that interviews tennis professionals, discusses tips, news, and reviews for tennis. It's produced by Love Set Match, a nonprofit health and fitness organization that uses tennis to reach disadvantaged people in Southern California, disadvantaged youth in Southern California. The podcast mission is to help bring the tennis community together and help grow the game. Listen wherever podcasts are available.